Welcome to this Times Techies webinar. I'm Shilpa Fadnis and I have with me my colleague Sujit John. The two of us will moderate today's discussion. We hope you and your families are staying safe and doing well. Our discussion today is on why a Japanese technology-focused staffing and services company called TechnoPro Holdings acquired Udupi-based RoboSoft for 805 crore. And through this, we'll also try and understand the growing Japanese interest in Indian technology talent. Some of the big Japanese technology companies like NTT, NEC are expanding their base in India. One of Japanese hottest startup, Raxul, is making India a fulcrum of its technology ambitions and global expansion. RoboSoft's acquisition is also a big validation for its founder, Rohith Bhat, who founded the company from the small temple town in 1996. They initially started developing device drivers, games, video editing software, and imaging software. And then Apple came as a customer, and RoboSoft was one of the only 8 companies globally to be certified by Apple as Mac OS developers. That changed the game for RoboSoft. It grew from building third-party mobile apps to offering design and digital advisory services. Today, its customers include Paytm, Discovery, Japan's mobile payment app PayPay, Disney, Warner Brothers, Heineken, and others. RoboSoft will now become a subsidiary of TechnoPro and will continue to be led by the current management headed by Ravi Teja Bommireddipalli to discuss how RoboSoft got to where it has and the vision that TechnoPro has for RoboSoft. We have with us today both the founder, CEO, and MD of RoboSoft.
We have Rohith Bhat, as Shilpa said. Rohith founded RoboSoft in 1996 as a software solutions provider. Rohith has also founded 2 product companies, 99 Games and Global Delight. 99 Games creates bespoke games and has worldwide success in Star Chef, a restaurant management game. Global Delight creates digital products in the audio, video, and imagine space. Welcome, Rohith.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa and Sujit.
We also have Ravi Teja Bommireddipalli. Ravi is CEO of RoboSoft Technologies. Since joining RoboSoft in 2017, Ravi has been instrumental in redefining the service offerings, acquisition of several large business deals, and positioning RoboSoft as a full-service digital transformation company. He had previous stints. Ravi was VP of Global Consulting and Digital Transformation at Nihil Technologies, and has also worked at Rolta and TCS in senior positions. Welcome, Ravi.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thanks, Sujit.
Those who are viewing this can send in questions through the Facebook comment box. Shilpa and I will put them to Rohith and Ravi. First, give us an idea. How did this deal happen? When did TechnoPro first approach you, or you approached Techno? So how did you meet, and how long ago was it? And how long did this deal take?
Yeah, so I think internally this conversation started roughly in the middle of last year. RoboSoft has 2 external investors, Kalari Capital and Ascent Capital, and Kalari had invested in us in 2013 and Ascent in 2015. And as with all funds, we have to give them an exit in a certain time frame. And the discussion started with that, about giving them an exit time frame. And we engaged a investment banking firm called GCA to lead this process. Somewhere in the middle of last year, we gave them the mandate. And they ran a global process for this entire exit process, and along that process we TechnoPro showed their interest in RoboSoft, and I think they showed the initial interest around late last year, and then the whole the process took some time. The discussion started in right earnest somewhere, I think, in the January February time frame. And then it picked up steam, and you know how it is. There are multiple parties, when they get interested, and the whole process went through, and we ended up signing the deal on 12th of August.
Okay. How is it dealing with the Japanese?
Yeah, it was, I think it was an interesting one, because for the very first time, I think, for us, a deal was done 100% over internet. Right, because of whole COVID,
no meetings at all.
Yeah, they couldn't, come down here and meet us. They did send on a representative, but I think nobody flew down from Japan, if that is your question.
Okay.
So I think it was all done virtually. So I think that shows them their level of diligence, that they are able to do remotely, as well as probably their confidence in the leadership of Ravi and the service offering of RoboSoft.
Okay, okay. And what is their interest in buying RoboSoft?
Yeah, so I think fundamentally it is all about digital transformation offering that RoboSoft has come to be known for in the market. See, we started as one of the pioneers. When the whole mobile ecosystem started, RoboSoft was one of the early players in the entire mobile ecosystem place, and we got into it in a very large manner. And in those early days, we were kind of building the news app for all the major newspapers, the TV app for all the major TV, and by 2013, we had started our own design lab for the very first time. An Indian company had put together a design lab, and I think we were always at the leading edge of technology. And I think somewhere along they saw that, okay, this is a company that does really well in this particular space. And I think we were able to convince them. And I think Ravi also was doing a lot of these discussions and selling them the vision of what we look for in the future. And I think things led to where we are today.
Okay, okay. Ravi, you want to add to that?
Yeah,
TechnoPro, what all are they looking at with you? What are their future vision?
correct. Yeah, no, like Rohit mentioned, TechnoPro is largely an engineering human resources sort of a company, and they're big. They're $1.5 billion, and half of that is related to software and IT, and most of it is done in Japan. So they've got Japanese customers, very strong in manufacturing and automotive, and so they do a lot of. They've got partnerships with SAP, Salesforce, Microsoft, and some AI products, etc. What they were lacking was the direct-to-consumer sort of platforms that we have been built. And then Rohit talked about, or you're aware about Paytm and PayPay and Flipkart and Discovery and NDTV, and all these are direct-to-consumer sort of apps. That was a sort of a thing that they were lacking. And most companies that were trying to acquire us, who were in the fray, were talking about, how do we help companies such as us building a B2C sort of platforms, which, most IT services build B2B platforms. So they were quite interested in us. And they also have a vision to become global, and they are almost 100% Japanese, although they acquired a company in UK and Singapore a couple of years back. But North America, they've never been present. So to be a global organization, while Japan, Rohit famously says, you've got a $2 trillion economy in one city called Tokyo. So you don't need to really go anywhere else. But being in the digital and the IT space, you have to be successful in North America to be a real global organization. And we have done quite well in North America. So between North America, Japan, and over a period of time, Europe, if we are successful in these three geographies, and if RoboSoft can help, TechnoPro make that global expansion happen and get them into the true digital space of direct-to-consumer applications. Although we do B2B platforms also, but our capability in adding three verticals which are very strong, banking, financial services, insurance, BFSI, fintech, then media tech and OTT platforms, and retail and e-commerce platforms. So these three verticals get added to their portfolio, and they also get a global access to Indian engineers and delivery capability, because Japan lacks, I believe they have a shortage of around 450,000 software engineers. Where do they come from? So getting global access to talent, globalizing them outside of Japan, and becoming truly digital. Those were the three aspects that we picked up as a key motivation for them to acquire us.
Okay, Shilpa?
Yeah. Rohit, how did you build a formidable force of mobile developers out of Udupi? 600 of your 1,000 people are based in Udupi. So if you can take us through on the talent playbook.
Yeah, so I think our journey with mobile started when Apple launched the iPhone, Shilpa. So RoboSoft, historically had a very strong working relationship with Apple technologies and, Apple in specific. So, I always love to say that Apple was our first customer, when we started back in 96. And when the iPhone was getting launched, right, they reached out to us and told us, hey, look, there is this SDK, you can use it to build apps for your customers, and do you want to do it? And that was a time when Apple was a very, it was not a huge, company that it is now. And because of the relationship, they gave us access to the pre-release SDK and told us, hey, look, and go and build those apps for the customers. And when the iPhone got launched, on the App Store, I love to say this story again and again. 5 of the apps out of the 200 apps that were launched on that day were built by RoboSoft. And in those early days, we saw the traction that these apps were getting, because what was happening was nobody took apps very seriously back then. They thought it was the next fad and it would just go away. And all these customers, they gave us access to the all the insights, analytics, and all those things, because they were not really tracking it so much. And we saw and we knew that something major is going to happen, and that's when we said, look, let's switch our company completely from this desktop to technology on mobile. And as a company, we transitioned, and the same thing happened year and a half later when Android was launched. We had 3 of our apps were there on Android store on day one. And I think we just went with that momentum and became a fully mobile focused company by 2011. And so we became very good at it at tech perspective. Then we added the design capabilities. We were one of the first companies to add that capability. And I think in a way we got referred. We got a lot of business by purely by reference, because customers loved the work we did. Consumers loved the apps we built, and they would give us validation by rating our apps built by us very well on the App Store. So the results were there for everybody to see, and that's the beauty of B2C business, or building B2C products. Your next customer can see the quality of our apps, because all he needs to do is just go to the App Store or Play Store. And that in a way helped us attract a lot of talent as well, because everybody knew that if you want to work on the cutting edge, there is this company in Udupi. And I don't know whether you saw this tweet. There was this particular tweet last week when somebody said, the best work on mobile doesn't just happen in Silicon Valley, but it also happens in Udupi. Okay, that says something about the whole focus that we built around mobility. And as mobile become big, mobile itself become the center of digital. So if you look at it now, every company's digital strategy revolves around mobile. So it might sound like, oh, mobile, it's just mobile. Mobile is itself at the center of everything. And when you do great stuff for your customers, and when your customers speak highly of it, and Vijay rightly shared his sentiment that day, people get attracted, right? So when you go to colleges to hire people, when we interview laterals, they all look us up, and they know that, okay, this is a company that does cutting edge, and they're in Udupi. They're good enough for Apple, they're good enough for PayPay, they're good enough for Paytm, they're good enough for Discovery. And they know that, okay, this is it. This is a company that does the cutting edge work, and recruitment suddenly becomes easier, retention becomes easier, because people love the work that they do at our company.
Rohith, my colleague at the back end, is saying to speak a little more loudly. I can hear you, but I don't, maybe a little louder would help.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But what, following up on Shilpa's question, what about, these youngsters, don't they want the kind of life, supposedly that the Bangalore kind of offers, and does Udupi have a good social life?
Yeah, thankfully, that was one of our concerns, when we were building the company. Then, Manipal, we have Manipal, right? And Manipal is like a mini Kormangla, for people. So you have the best nightlife, 55,000 students from 35 different countries. And, I think if you look at the quality of life that you get there, especially for young people, I think Manipal was a godsend for us being in Udupi, because all our engineers would stay in Manipal. They liked the vibrancy of that. And yes, there are always choices. Some people, then go to Bangalore, some people go to, Mumbai. That happens, naturally. And, we have seen some migration, reverse migration as well. People working in Bangalore saying that, okay, we are done with this, we want to go back. And
okay.
So, yeah.
Shilpa?
Yeah. Ravi, you spoke about how you want to make RoboSoft a global mobile app development base. So if you can share some of your plans on what is the roadmap for RoboSoft for the next 2 to 3 years, which are some of the areas of focus for you?
Yes. No, like Rohit mentioned that the centerpiece for digital is mobile. So if you see most startups, they're all mobile only or mobile first. And if you see most enterprises who want to move from traditional ways of working to digital ways of working, again, mobile will play a important role. So that vision back in 2007, when iPhone was launched and smartphones were there, I think it was a great vision. All of us, I was in, the late 90s. I was in TCS, and then of course Neil, and we were solving Y2K problems in TCS. And I famously tell Rohit, he took a different path. There was a lot of money to be made in Y2K, but he chose Apple. It was inspired by Apple. You should ask him a question of how he got inspired by Japan to begin with, and it's serendipitous that after 25 years we are acquired by a Japanese company. You should ask this question to him. But yeah, so mobile, and then one of the other pioneers, Rohit doesn't realize that he built capability was design. I saw in the last 4 to 5 years that design is suddenly very important in technology companies. When IT services companies, maybe product companies were still doing it. And to have a design lab back in 2013 is also quite visionary. And when I was being recruited by Rohit, and assessing my career in RoboSoft, he said, go and visit our design labs in Mumbai. So I visited and I was like floored. I mean, I'm working with the best design guys globally, from National Institute of Design and creative guys, etc. So I said, wow, I mean, other big companies are struggling to take their boards and management teams to Stanford to learn about design thinking and all that. I already have a setup in place. So these two were already in place, the engineering and technology capability and design. And I come from a consulting background. So I also realized that when I joined that customers, because we've built 2000 plus digital platforms in the last 25 years, or last 15 years when the iPhone was launched, and the Android phones. And so customers expect us naturally to say that, you've done so many in so many verticals, so you should proactively tell us what should be the features, functionality of our product and our digital. So creating that product mindset, and coming from a consulting background, I created a digital consulting team. We call it digital advisory team. Hired an expert from outside and from IBM, and these people use design thinking as a methodology. Although we create our businesses B2B, but the users are end consumers. So doing empathy sessions with them, understanding their latent needs, their insights, and creating a feature roadmap, functionality roadmap, and a minimum viable product platform. So more proactively engaging with clients was something that we added as a capability along with design and engineering. So what I see is that we are a natural choice in India for most digital startups and most enterprises who want to become digital. We have shown traction in the US and North America and Japan. So even before the TechnoPro acquisition, we had one of our biggest clients, which is PayPay. So in both these markets, in India, the brand is such that, again, thanks to the founding team and Rohit, that we don't really need a sales team. People come to us and we almost choose which ones to work with and which ones not. So my key objective is to make such a brand happen in North America and Japan. And fortunately, with TechnoPro and their access to customers, Japan should be comparatively easier. North America still would be a big challenge for me. And then growing outside of these three capabilities that I mentioned is adding, more enterprise digital transformation capabilities in AI ML, which we do in a small work. AI ML helps us because when you have thousands and millions of people on the platform, you have access to their data. So personalization engines, recommendations of what they should buy, what they should watch, what are the notifications. So using AI ML would also be key, and we're adding that capability also. So with consulting, design, engineering, and analytics, I think we are a full service digital transformation company. We are very small, so and making it big globally, especially in US and Japan. And of course, India, we already do a lot of stuff, would be the key objective. And with the acquisition of TechnoPro, Japan is largely taken care of. And on our own, we have to build our North America capability, which we already are. We've moved from almost $2 million to $25 million in this current financial year in the last three and a half years. So we're moving quite swiftly in these two markets.
You're small in terms of revenue, is it, compared to you? Did you say almost 900 people? No.
Yes.
That's how looks big.
Yeah. 900 to 1,000 people. No, compared to the big ones, we're small. So
Okay.
compared to the large cap and medium cap companies, we are comparatively smaller. That's
okay.
Yeah.
Which are the ones? What are the big ones?
No, I mean, yeah, typical IT services companies are there, which is TCS, Infosys, Wipro, etc. And the latest ones, people who want to call themselves 100% digital. So we are 100% digital. We don't do any legacy IT stuff. So there are global companies which are Globant, EPAM, Endava. So these are 100% digital transformation companies. Of course, they are almost $600 million and $1 billion plus. And when acquisitions were happening, there was TechnoPro, of course, which finally was the final winner. But there were a lot of private equity companies, a lot of other global companies which wanted to acquire us. And they looked at us as a 100% DX company and thought that what the Globant, Endava, EPAM were 10 years back, which RoboSoft is right now. So they see a huge potential in our growth in the next 5 to 10 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. We'll come back to that. But Rohit, that question that Ravi said we should ask you, Japan, you had worked with them very early on, is it? The Japanese?
Yes. So actually, my early job, after my engineering in 92 was, for a company in Osaka in Japan. So I had an opportunity to go there and work in Japan. And typically, we, when we grew up, at least in our engineering and all, we are always heavily influenced by the whole Western thing, right? A lot of Hollywood influence, the pop culture and all those things. And, I also grew up watching a lot of World War II movies as well. So, I think, how those movies are. And ultimately, they portray the Japanese or, the Germans in a particular way. So when I got a job in Japan, I knew that they were high tech. And I thought, okay, maybe let me go and try what it is. And, during my entire stint, there was one culture shock after another for me. Okay. So I think in everything there is very different, right? They are so high tech, but they are so humble. They were so small yet they were so mighty. Okay. And this is the Japan of 92. I am speaking of 92, 93. And when I think the Japanese yen was 87 to a dollar, and Japanese companies were buying all the Hollywood studios, left, right, and center. Car companies in Japan were kind of competing and upstaging the Detroit car makers. And Japan was kind of like becoming the really huge economy. And what amazed me was, here was this company that was completely destroyed during World War II. And to just pick themselves up and to reach that stage, to become almost the number one economy in the world, I was like completely blown away by that. And I decided then and that okay, no matter what, I am going to go back to India and build something world class. So that's all I knew, that I'm going to go back soon and build something world class. And it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it is world class. So that is the simple premise with which I started RoboSoft. And incidentally, that job was also into the whole Apple Mac platform, when I worked there. And when I came back to India, and Apple was just coming into the country. Okay, they had just made the announcement, and this was Apple when Apple was still a $5.4 billion company. And PC was dominant, Windows was dominant, and everybody was writing Apple off. And I figured that okay, now I'm a one-person startup, and Apple is still a $5.4 billion company. Let me go and offer services on this platform. And that's when the whole conversation started. But for me, the initial inspiration for starting RoboSoft was this whole trip to Japan, my stay in Japan. their work ethic and what they did to their country, within 50 years, and that whole origin of world-class building, building stuff that are world-class, started from Japan. And Apple gave me the focus of, focusing on doing one thing and doing it extremely well. And that resulted in Apple putting us on their website, within 2-3 years, telling them, look, globally, RoboSoft is one of the 8 companies we are going to recommend to companies anywhere in the world to get stuff done. So
Wow.
those were the early, days.
Wow.
And, like Ravi said, it is, we were speaking about it, a week ago, a week and a half ago when we signed up. Wow, we have come on full circle.
Oh, lovely story. What is the first work that you did for Apple?
So we were in this company, we worked on building a Japanese word processor. So there was a word processor, which we built for the Apple Mac platform. And, that product took, around 2.5 years to build. Yes.
Okay.
So, yes.
And it did well?
Yes. And I mean, they released it back then, but, then, MS Word became more and more popular in Japan, after that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Shilpa, you're going to ask a question. Sorry.
Yeah. Rohit wanted to recount that experience with Vijay Shekhar Sharma. You built Paytm, the initial version of their app. How did that happen?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, our work in mobile was getting noticed, and Vijay, one fine day, I think just called up my colleague, and he said, "Look, Vinod, I heard so many things about you guys, and can you build something for us on this, platform?" He had a platform called as Video Pin. This, I think, very early days of mobile. I think 2010, and he said, "Look, can we do something?" And we started working with him, Vijay. Harinder, and then Rahul Saini, their design head, and within a few months, I think they started thinking about this whole concept of Paytm, right? And it was natural for them to call us again and ask us, "Hey, look, can you guys build this app for us?" And we said okay, let's build something like this. And we started working with them. And I think rest they say is history. So it started with a phone call, and then they're asking us to build this, and we pretty much built a lot of stuff for Vijay and his team. Extremely proud of what we did for them, extremely proud of where Paytm is today. And the story kind of repeated somewhere in 2018 when they again called us up saying that, "Hey, look, we want to build something great for Japan. Can you help us building the PayPay app?" And the rest, as they say, is that PayPay went on to become one of the most popular payment app in Japan. I think it's changing habits of players out there. So we are proud to be a part of that journey.
And you practically built that whole app, is it?
Which one?
PayPay and all that?
No, PayPay, we worked with their team. But when we built Paytm, it was basically ideation was from Vijay, Rahul, Harinder and all. But we were the engineering guys.
Okay. Okay, we'll come back to that. Ravi, there's this question here from Sujit Reddy. What is the gamut of digital assets that RoboSoft deals with?
Digital assets.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about the services that we offer. I've talked about the industries that we serve, and so we work with key roles like chief digital officers and chief information, chief technology, and chief product officers. So I think the assets that we have is, of course, the vast experience and expertise on working on various industry verticals, platforms, use cases. I tell my customers that they can be in healthcare, they can be in manufacturing. We work with Mercedes-Benz. We almost work for. We did a POC with Narayan Rudralaya, Devi Shetty, and we work with a lot of healthcare companies in the US. So take any industry, any use case. Out of the 2,000 plus platforms that we have built in the last 15, 20 years, I can at least get a handful of similar use cases that I can show as a case study. So when we were bidding for Discovery, we had to show what we did for Woot as a platform, Viacom, what we did for ESPN, what we did for ETV. Shilpa, you've worked there. So these case studies help us to win new deals in various other verticals. So we're quite industry agnostic from that perspective. And so the asset is the vast level of case studies, customers like Vijay who can go on to Twitter and tell without any hesitation that we played a significant part in his journeys. So I think customer references, case studies,
Okay.
and all that is
What
really
work have you? There's Disney and Warner Brothers and all that. What have you done for them?
So I'm sure Rohit can add better to it. So when I think we got this private equity investment, the major thing was to globalize our focus from working in North America and building sales teams there. So I think we did. Rohit says that he almost was the salesperson. He was the CEO, MD, founder, but he was the salesperson in the conferences and workshops, putting up a stall along with his colleagues. And a lot of people then came and said, "Hey, company out of India doing these cutting edge stuff." So there were companies digital agencies, marketing agencies, brand agencies, big ones who would do probably the branding and the design part, but want to offshore and outsource the engineering part. So National Geography, Delta Airlines, American Girl, and so many other big brands. We worked. Probably the service agreement was not directly with the client, but through these agencies. And today we can showcase them as case studies and tell the world that this is what we could do in this particular space. Rohit, you want to add?
Yeah, so I think some of the work that we did for Warner Brothers was in the gaming space. So I think around 2005, we kind of got very deeply engaged in helping gaming companies. So again, Apple as a platform at that point in time was not able to attract a lot of large game publishers to build games for their platform, and they said, look, RoboSoft, can you help us get all these major games onto a platform? And as part of that, we started working with a lot of large gaming publishers like EA, Ubisoft, Warner Brothers, then Atari, and all these companies. And at one point in time, if you had to go to an Apple store, an Apple retail store, physical store in US, and if you go to their games aisle, and if you just flip the CD jackets that were there of the games, you would find a RoboSoft logo on 50% of those games.
Really?
Yes, so
wow.
as one part of the deal was that we wanted them to put our logo on the CD jacket. So in a way, these are small things, but these are all the things that were helping us get that validation. And when somebody goes there, they see it, and Warner Brothers found us out in that way, and we used to do a lot of trade shows. Disney also, we built a couple of games for them. So there was a lot of that activity that used to happen in those days.
Okay. These are based on their movie characters and all that, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Shilpa?
We have this question from Vaishnavi Patel. You started early and got the first mover advantage in the mobile software development space. When did you realize that mobile would be the future? Because many giants clearly didn't. Rohit, this question for you.
Yeah. So we saw it within a few months of the iPhone App Store launch, right? So basically, Apple launched the iPhone, and they launched the App Store a year after that. Okay. And as soon as they launched the App Store, and people could build custom apps for the platform. Like I said, we had access to all the analytics of all these apps. Okay. And we saw the traction, and we knew that something major was happening in the whole mobile space. And as a priority, we just dropped everything and started focusing on mobile at that stage. This was somewhere in 2008, 2009. And yes, I think our entire pivot to mobile happened in very early days.
So about 7 out of the 200 first apps on the iTunes was yours, is it?
Yeah, five of them.
Five out of the 200.
Yeah, yes.
apps on iTunes was
Yes.
built
So
by
that
RoboSoft.
was the best pitch, we ever had in our sales pitch. So whenever people used to ask us, hey, look, how good are you guys at, mobile? We would tell them, look, 5 of the apps, on App Store and 3 of the apps on Google Store were built by us on day one.
Which were some of those?
Yeah,
Do you recollect?
Yeah, one of them was, Splash Data was one of them. There was a social network that we built called as Zilling, and there was another, called SRS Audio. So these are some of the ones that I readily recall.
Okay. Shilpa?
Yeah, we have this question from Manish Deshmukh. Upskilling, reskilling is going to be a key future skill. What, in your opinion, are the 2 skills to focus in the digital services space? We both, Rohit and Ravi, also can chime in. Yeah.
Rohit, you want to go first? Genius Labs, etc.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that was what RoboSoft was really good at through its history was picking up a new technology and working on it and delivering on that promise, right? So technology is a fast moving industry, and things keep changing. So it happened to us in mobile as well. Initially it was all Apple technologies, then it was Android, and then BlackBerry was there, and Nokia came out with their stuff, and then this whole shift from monolithic architecture to service oriented architecture started happening. And we were pretty good at picking up those skills, and somewhere along this journey we realized that we need to have our own kind of a internal training kind of a initiative, and we formed something called as a Genius Lab. So basically the Genius Lab is a bunch of long timer tech guys in our company who would take off time from building product for their customers to grooming the young engineers in our company. Okay, so they have been out there and built multiple apps, multiple product, multiple solutions over a period of time. Hardcore techie guys, and they would just take some time off in several months and work on grooming the guys. So we always used to have this kind of feedback from our customers. They used to say that, hey, look, Rohit, something, when you give us engineers, give us people who have been trained from RoboSoft from day one, because engineering is all, and if you look at it, a lot of engineering skills, people say that it's all about, okay, how good are you? You can be extremely productive. A difference between an extremely productive engineer and somebody who is not, can be pretty high. And we thought that making sure that the fundamentals of those engineering skills and technical skills need to be imparted to people. And because tech keeps changing, we have to, this particular team at Genius Lab, they keep ensuring that our entire tech stack, our tech team knowledge is updated all the time. And I think that is one investment that helps us a lot as we move into the next stage of growth in the company.
Yeah, and just to add, we there are almost 3-year experienced fresh engineer whom we would have groomed from scratch is equivalent to almost a 6-year lateral that we hire from outside.
Really?
So that's the capability, and some people really put in there when they want to headhunt some of our engineers, they write RoboSoft experience is an added advantage. So that's the level of
really? Wow.
that we have.
No, the funny thing, Ravi, is one day I saw, one guy's profile on LinkedIn was, RoboSoft recruiter for RoboSoft, skill sets.
That's a good one.
Like,
That's
wow,
a good one. So you have become a skill set yourself in some sense.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Ravi, specifically now, if you're going to hire some people, which areas would those be?
Yes. So while iOS, Android, and some of these are technologies that we have built from scratch from day one in the mobile space, but a lot, even to answer the previous question on what are the key skills that one should focus on as engineers. So customers are demanding full stack developers, full stack engineers. So you can't just be a front end development engineer only on mobile or on web or only middleware or only the back end capability. So if you can have the full stack capability, then you are quite hot in the marketplace. So and then we are adding that capability with what we call as, can I put myself in the end user shoes of how this app should look like from a technology standpoint, from a design standpoint, and from a simplicity, intuitiveness standpoint. So we think that, we believe that all thousand of us within the company are design thinkers. And when I say design thinkers, means I need not be creative in how I design these apps, but design thinkers are people who can put oneself in the shoes of the user and think from their perspective. So engineering full stack capability, design thinkers to think from a user's perspective is what is going to take people quite far in their careers, and that's what we're trying to build within the organization.
Okay, that you a lot of training internally for all that, is it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, that's part of the what Genius Labs does, or
Yes. Genius Labs has evolved, and while the core focus of Genius Labs has been on engineering and technology, and that's where the computer science engineers does, and that's where the full stack capability gets developed. But added to that, our design labs and our advisory capability adds that design thinking flavor to the skill set of the organization as such.
Okay. I have this question from Saranraj. When did you set up your first US office? How much did you invest, and what do you recommend for new Indian companies to set up their sales office in the US?
Rohit, you want to take
Yeah, so we set it up quite long ago, and our initial intent of starting a US office was more about sending some of our engineers to client location on L1 visa, right? When we started that office back in 2002 or 3, building a sales office there was not there on our minds, and it was more about having a presence in the US so that we can apply for L1 visa. And our investment in sales office and all started only post investment from Kalari in 2013.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of setup do you have now there in the US? How many people and all that?
Ravi, you want to answer that?
Yeah. Correct. So we are headquartered in the Silicon Valley. Our company is registered. RoboSoft Inc. is registered in San Francisco. So right now the team is largely a sales team. So we, as Rohit mentioned, a lot of our folks have visited clients before too, so that we see people on site. So we have sent one of our senior most persons from India who has been with the company for almost 25 years. He's now there in New York City, leading our account growth, our customer growth, and our delivery success. And along with him, there are a few salespeople. And then we've also hired project managers, program managers, design thinkers, product specialists, and tech architects as and when needed on various projects. The future is that while we are largely a sales-focused region in North America, the future would be that in fact, Rohit also knows that we were trying to almost acquire a company in the US, which has a customer base, which has a customer-facing base, and it's quite expensive to do everything in the US. So our value addition would have been, we have the architects, project managers, and program managers front-ending the deals, and the actual engineering can be offshore to Udupi, Bangalore, and Bombay, wherever we are, and that would have really been a great thing. So that acquisition is still on the cards, and even with TechnoPro, they have created a good fund for us to acquire both companies with capabilities in these regions, especially North America and Europe, and also capabilities with delivery, access to delivery capability. So right now we are India-focused delivery, and we manage to and there's a time difference, right? So, but we managed to have a 3 to 4 hour overlap between any geography, whether it's North America or Japan. But over a period of time, it's quite possible that we scale, we would create more near-shore delivery capabilities, maybe in Latin America or Eastern Europe. But that's a more longer-term strategy. But that's how US will be growing in the near
Okay,
future.
okay. Saranraj's last part was, would you recommend new Indian companies to set up a sales office in the US? Is that important, a physical office, or is it at all possible to do things remotely?
Well, remotely is difficult. I mean,
Difficult.
if you want customers in the US, you should be seen there in the US.
Okay,
Although
okay.
COVID has said that, we used to face challenges with our customers that none of your engineers are in the US. I know they come and fly and visit us, but we don't see them. They don't sit in New York or Chicago or San Francisco. But COVID has, said that you can sit anywhere in the world and still develop. And we have proved to most clients that we can do that from Udupi, so they trust us. And uh, so I think having a relationship and sales set up with customer facing people, at least to begin with, and
Should be
having
there.
an office is important. Yeah.
Important. Okay. Shilpa?
Rohit, you've been a serial entrepreneur. Your next gig is 99 games. So if you can talk about that, how do you plan to shape that venture going forward?
Yeah.
So Rohit, are you exiting from RoboSoft?
Yes, so this is
So
a
you
100.
have sold your entire stake, is it?
Yes, this is 100% stake sale by all the current shareholders.
Okay.
So I think it's not. I think everybody is getting an exit. So it's 100% exit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Rohit, just to add on to Shilpa, Rohit is not a serial entrepreneur; he's a parallel entrepreneur. So
Multiple companies at the same time.
Multiple companies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right, Shilpa. The whole idea is to move to B2C space, and the inspiration for that came from all the great stuff that we did in RoboSoft, right? We built all these games, for our customers. We built all these apps for our customers. I am sure more than 1 billion downloads we got for all these apps, and wanted to move along and figure out a way of building these and selling it as well to the directly to the consumers and monetizing. And I think that's what 99 games is about. It's about building games for the world market by again sitting in Udupi. And we have been able to make a lot of progress on that front. And but I think we have barely scratched the surface. The idea is to keep focusing on that and building 99 games into one of the largest gaming companies based in India. So that is
You're
that's the
making
vision.
games for others, or are you making your own games?
We are making our own games.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
How many have you done so far?
We have in terms of games, we have built more than 21 games so far in 99 games. Yeah.
21 games.
Yes. But
Okay.
we started in the very early days, when games were like those very simple games that you would do, right? The carom games and things like that. But games have become so much more complex now.
Sure.
Building one game, the kind of games that we build at 99 games are the games that people go on to play for 5 years, 10 years. So those are the kind of games that we focus on. And yes,
So you're getting into more and more complex games, you're saying?
yes, correct. Because that's the nature of the market now. You need to build games that are heavily analytics driven, right? And long form entertainment. And it is that some of our customers have been playing our games for more than 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
they come. The first thing that they do every day is come to our game, play it, and when we build those games, we never thought that our players will be playing this game after 2 years. But here we are after 5 years. So we had a game called as Star Chef, which did incredibly well for us. And we recently launched the second version of that game, and the idea is to see if we can take the game from we had a we were able to build it into a 30 million game, the original version. Can we go 10x higher? So the whole vision is to take it 10x higher with everything that we are doing. So that is the next that's the next goal in life.
Okay. Speak to you more on games later. There's a question, Shilpa. I have a question from. There's one, of course, a comment from Vishwanath Kamath saying it's quite a journey from Udupi to SFO. It gives immense courage to young entrepreneurs to think and build startups on their own, even being in tier 2, 3 cities. That's a comment from Vishwanath Kamath. There's a question from Sachidanand Kulkarni for both Ravi and Rohit, asking, what is your advice to young startup entrepreneurs who have aspirations to build such successful companies and go global?
Rohit, you can go first. Rohit is sought after entrepreneur to learn from for most
Absolutely, I'm
entrepreneurs.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, couple of things. I would say one is, whatever you do, you just should focus on what you're good at. So I think that's the number one thing for any entrepreneur. It is very, very tempting to just go into everything. And I've made that mistake, multiple times in my career. And I had to pay for it, very, in a big way. So make sure that you focus on.
What was that big way?
Every time we focus on something, it's paid out really well for us. So, be it initially focusing on Mac, then, focusing on game, then focusing on mobile, focusing on design, you know, uh, design thinking and everything. Whenever we focused on, certain things, it had worked really well for us. So number one advice from my side is, focus. Okay. Second thing is be good at whatever you're focusing on. You have to, as an entrepreneur, you have to personally be, very good at what you're focusing on. And third thing is see if you can get a good, founding team with you. Either co-found the company with a few other folks, or to make sure that you have a great, an awesome team to, be with you. I think if you ask me, these three things, and post that, it is perseverance, struggle, and hard work. So be ready for all three.
But you faced some major challenges also when you did not focus, you said, is it?
Yes.
When was that?
No, I mean, whenever you try to do multiple things at the same
Things.
time, yeah,
Mhm.
you just, you lose your way. So
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember we doing, of course, it was previous to I joining. We've done games as a service. You asked these are Star Chef is a product of our own, which is 99 games, but game as a service. So the three movies, Sultan, Fan, and Doom, the games version of that has been done by RoboSoft, etc. Uh, so so no longer we do games as a service. Now 99 games actually have their own products. So.
Okay, so they stopped doing for others.
yes, at RoboSoft we don't do games anymore, and
Of course.
that's a classic example of focus, for you, Sujit, because the kind of the skill set that you need, the mindset that you need for building games is very different from the ones that you need for building, consumer apps or enterprise apps, and maintaining multiple teams become very difficult, especially when you're going to go out and do business development. So if you don't get work for them, there is a big team sitting here not having work, and that's a classic example of.
Got it. Shilpa?
Yeah, we have a lot of questions. This one is from Ashish Solanki. How is your valuation way higher than the industry average for a digital company of your size? Is it purely due to your human resources?
Yeah, I think I don't know whether it is high, low, and all those things. Those discussions keep happening. We love. I mean, that's a favorite conversation. Where we used to have when we were in this whole process between us, our investment banker, investors, and all. But yeah, I think it's always valuation is always a multiple of either EBITDA or revenues, right? And different, the companies that are getting traded like Happiest Mind and all, they trade at a particular number. There are companies getting bought smaller than ours. They they got bought at a different level. At the end of the day, I can only say that we were happy with the outcome that we got. So valuation is it's an endless discussion.
Endless discussion.
Rohit, somebody famously tweeted on your tweet that if you had gone IPO, our valuations would have been much higher.
I know
But he, at the same breath, he said, "Thank God you didn't go on IPO because these IPO valuations are just out of this
mythical.
world." And yeah, so good you guys went for a private buyout. Yeah.
We have this question from Shubham Rastogi. What part did the fundraising play in RoboSoft's success? What is the ideal time for a profitable company to raise funds?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things that you get with fundraising. One is you get external viewpoints, right? When you're on your own, it's always your viewpoint, and you might be wrong, and there's nobody to tell you that you're wrong. And when having an external partner in terms of an investor and a committed investor is always very great for you. So I think entrepreneurs need to have a very strong sounding board for themselves. So, somebody who can tell them, look, this is not the right way, that, is going. And post that, entrepreneurs can decide, which way they want to go. But it's always helpful to have, an external party like an investor, not just for their capital, but the value that they bring in terms of, all the sounding board that they provide. But yeah, I think, if you're profitable and if you can grow by bootstrapping, just do it, Okay, but make sure that you have a good sounding board. You don't necessarily need to raise capital for the sake of raising capital. If you're profitable, you don't need to do it. So back when in 2013, when RoboSoft raised capital, we did it primarily because we were, we wanted to take, 99 Games and Global Delight, bigger, because those were product companies and, they required a lot more investment. And RoboSoft was profitable. It did not need the investment at that stage. But we took it because, of the product companies. We had a very clear reason, back then for raising.
Ravi, so now the advantage that TechnoPro gives you is what? A lot more funding and all of that available to you. What else?
Yeah, so the one is, of course, huge access to their customer base in Japan. Adding verticals, like I mentioned earlier, manufacturing, automotive, partnerships with other big product companies like SAP, Salesforce, Automation Anywhere, RPA sort of companies. And, when we started Japan, it was a single client sort of a country for us, or a region for us. Of course, the biggest digital PayPay calls themselves a super app, so it's not just payments, but banking, ride sharing. You can do almost everything on this particular app. It's a great case study for us. Taking that case study and building a sales team, we've hired a country manager there, and taking that sales opportunity to most clients, Japanese clients, big brands, would have taken a lot of time, but with TechnoPro coming in, I think that will really be fast-tracked. And then their aspiration to go global means not just organically, inorganically, like I mentioned earlier. They have allocated a good fund for us to create RoboSoft as the platform and build acquisitions around it, and make RoboSoft, a $1 billion company in the next 5 to 10 years, and be a true digital solutioning sort of a company. So while they help us in Japan, we move North America, Europe, and India as a delivery capability. I think that's a good story for TechnoPro to at least in the next 5 years.
Okay. Rohith, Shilpa, I just want to ask Rohith about this. Something is happening you seem to be at the right spot at the right time, and with gaming as well. Play Simple just got acquired for some crazy amount by a Swedish company. So what? India is beginning to play a big role in gaming as well now?
Yes, I think,
what are the advantages we have?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting time for us, and especially with this whole thing with the Moonfrog and Play Simple, very interesting outcome. So if you look at it in gaming, in the last 5-6 years, you had these gaming companies in Turkey doing really well. They are based in Turkey, but in terms of monetization, they were top class, world class, and companies like Zynga and large mobile companies, they go to Turkey and go on acquiring studios there. And you see a lot of such similar studios getting built in India now. And I think in another 2 to 3 years, you'll see similar, large sized outcome, maybe even larger than what we saw happening in the gaming space in India. And those are for the companies who want to exit in, but there is a longer story for companies who want to stay on and become even larger in their own way. And I think that's the opportunity that that I'm extremely excited about. How do we go from creating something and become one of the largest gaming companies?
Okay, and you would recommend that you build the games yourself instead of doing services for others?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, why do you think that opportunity is bigger?
Yes, because it's a non-linear scaling. See, in a services business, your revenues are dependent on the number of people you have on. Whereas in a product business, in any product business, that's what it is. Your team size can be, it's not in linear. It's more like exponential. If you get, if you get the whole thing right, you can scale exponentially. And that is the focus that we are at. We want to focus on building games that can be scaled exponentially.
Okay.
Yes.
Shilpa, I have a question here. Do you have a question? Do you want?
No, Sujit. Yeah, please carry on.
One from Ravi Bhat and Pratyush Kumar. Two people asking this question. It's about, I presume they're asking about RoboSoft. What was your investment in the initial stage? How was it financed, and how did you set up the company?
Yeah. So yeah, I had some savings, out of when I came back from Japan, I had some 60,000 rupees of savings. So that was a startup capital when we started this company. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's it. That all your money initially, little bit of money. That's what you, okay.
Yes. Yeah. That's where it started from. And I started from my sister's house. There was no money to start an office and all those things. So it started in a very small way.
In Udupi, is it?
No. We actually, we started in Bombay.
Bombay.
So when I came back from Japan, I was in Mumbai, and back then there was no internet connection, right? In 1996, when I took my internet connection, it was probably 86th or 87th internet connection in Bombay. Internet just come into the country, and
I see.
Yes, so we started from those, very early days, and the kind of difficulty in those days was very different, Sujit. Getting a phone connection took me 1.5 months. So yeah, it's a different kind of. But yeah, that's where it started. It started, and what happened was, in the first 2 years of RoboSoft, we were servicing customers in US, and I had not met even one of them. And then I started thinking, okay, if my customers are not bothered about where I am, why should I be? And I thought, okay, it's easier to grow in a smaller place. And that's where the journey towards Udupi happened.
Okay. What is Global Delight about?
Yeah, Global Delight is about building our own apps in the photo, video, and audio space. Yeah, it is. It's a video edit. We build a great video editing app there. We have a great photography enhancing app, and then there is a audio app which allows you to experience spatial audio without expensive earpod from Apple.
Okay.
So you can just plug in a normal headphone, and you can enjoy the same effect as spatial audio kind of things.
Okay.
So it's a very pure innovation play in Global Delight.
Okay. That's not lack of focus, I hope. Games and this.
We are just like when we got Ravi on board, that was one of the key things that we should stay focused, and Ravi started running RoboSoft full time in 2017, and we had empowered the CTO of Global Delight to run that company fully from his side. So I don't really look at that company from a day-to-day operations at all. So
okay, yes. 99 games is your total focus.
Yes, now. My 99 games is my total focus.
Okay. Shilpa, anything?
Rohith,
okay.
Yeah, one last question. Who do you look up to as inspiration? And now that you've built this company to the scale, any closing thoughts for the wannabe entrepreneurs from smaller towns? You also want to be the mentor for the next generation of entrepreneurs emerging from Udupi. So if you can talk about that.
Yes, I think one of the common misconceptions people have is that you need to be in a larger city to start something big, and that's a messaging that I used to keep getting. So when I was small, when I decided to move from Mumbai to Udupi, people said you are crazy. Nobody will give you work. And as soon as you moved to Udupi back in 2000, we landed one of our biggest customers ever, Hewlett-Packard company. They gave us a lot of work to build device drivers for their entire range of printers. Okay, and then they said, look, you can't really innovate in Udupi, and we we started getting into the app space. We started building all this game porting, for some of the largest names in the world. And then they said, look, you can't raise funds in Udupi. And we raised not one round, but we raised 3 rounds of funding. And then they started saying, hey, look, you can't get an exit from being in Udupi. And we got that as well. So every time somebody said that you can't do something, we have done that, and we have showed that it can be done. And I think that will serve as an inspiration to people in smaller towns, that you don't necessarily need to be in a larger city. You can be in a smaller city, do fantastic work, make sure that your customers become your biggest champions. And if you do that, if you take care of your customers, I think if you take care of your customers, your people, everything takes care of it on its own. So yeah, like I said, happy to mentor people, or if they have anything, they can reach out to me, and I'm always there to give them high level advice on what they can do. I can remove a lot of myths from their mind.
Take care of your customers. Yeah. A delightful story. And congratulations to both of you on this phenomenal exit. And thanks a lot for talking with us. To all our viewers as well, we hold this webinar every Wednesday. We had a lot of questions today, a lot of viewers actually. My colleague at the back end tells me. Obviously, there's enormous interest in what you have accomplished, Rohith and Ravi. Amazing story. Thanks again for being with us. And we hope we'll keep a close track of what Ravi is doing in RoboSoft and Rohith's 99 games, of course. That's something which will be closely followed.
No, and thank you, Sujit and Shilpa. The thing about RoboSoft is that we are quite confident that the brand remains. So, so even with the growth that we're talking about, RoboSoft brand remains. So whenever, while Rohith grows 99 games, and he said he'll be a unicorn one day. So both of us will work together to make both brands big.
Wonderful, wonderful. Such a delightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Sujit.
much.
Thank you, Shilpa. Thank you, Ravi.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.